Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the 1111 Matrix Code Revealed. As always, I am your host, Garrett King. So on today's episode, we're going to have the conversation that I recorded with Micah Dank. It's going to be two videos, but I'm going to put them both into this one video. No sense in separating them out. But there was just a lot of information. And of course, Micah Dank, he's a busy guy. So we had to kind of cut it into two parts. So, which was totally fine with me because, again, like I said, it's a lot of information to try to get into such a short, period of time. So I wasn't really able, even doing two videos, I wasn't able to really show everything, like all of the connections and just all of the weird, like meanings, behind the Gematria numbers. And, so I wasn't really able to dig into all of that. It's more of just the gist of everything. So for those of you who have, been watching the videos and keeping up with them, this might be a little boring for you because I'm just kind of rehashing, stuff I've already spoken about. Now, in the second video, I go into just kind of showing him the connections that I found, like in the Matrix film, and then the connections with 9/11 and like the Rotas or Sator Square, whatever you call it. There's a couple of things with the Matrix film that is kind of new, that I point out, that I haven't done in a video since, or haven't done in a video, period. Just a couple of small things. So, you might be interested in that. But again, for those of you who have been keeping up with everything, this might be boring for you, but, who knows? You might want to watch it. If you do, great. But I do appreciate Micah Dank coming on. I appreciate him giving me his time to just reveal what I was able to reveal to him. And, at first I thought maybe I was losing him, at the beginning and kind of towards the middle. But I think towards the end, when I got into the Zodiac side of it, and things kind of started falling into place, I think he kind of like was coming around to like, okay, there's something to this, because again, like I said, it's a lot to cover. I'm throwing numbers at you. I'm throwing symbolism at you. I'm throwing Gematria at you. Like I'm just throwing all this stuff out, and it's a lot. It is a lot to try to comprehend and process in a short amount of time, So, but just the fact that, he was willing to come back for a part 2 just again shows me how interested he was in the information. And at the very end, he does say, I think in both videos that he does, think that I'm on to something. He just doesn't know what. And, and I agreed with him, I feel like this does mean something, but what, I have my theories, I have my speculations, but, I don't know 100%. So, there you have it. But yeah, so I'm going to, in the show notes, also put links to Micah's books on Amazon and link his Facebook and I think it's either Facebook or Instagram. I know it's Instagram because I've been communicating with him through there, but he's also on Twitter. So I'll be putting all of his information so you can reach out to him. If you would like to purchase his books directly from him, he will sign them for you. So you're getting a personalized copy. And that's awesome. I highly recommend the books. I've purchased them off of Amazon and I've been reading them. I'm about 70, 80% through the second one. And they're just really quick reads. They're, it's like a great adventure story. They're quick. It's fast paced. There's a lot going on. It really keeps you entertained. It keeps you hooked, wanting to find out what's going to happen next. So it's very much, and I mentioned this to Micah, himself. I said, it's very much like the Da Vinci Code, that adventure that you're on. So I do highly recommend the books if you guys are interested in reading them. So check out the show notes. You'll find the info there. And yeah, so let's just go ahead and cut this short and we'll jump right into the videos. I do want to say really quickly also that on the first video, learn by mistake. So I don't usually use Zoom because I don't usually conduct interviews where I'm the one hosting the interview or their conversation. You know, I've used it to go on to other people's podcasts, but not to, you know, do a presentation and record it myself. So I didn't have things quite set up the way they should have been. Only found that out after I went back and was watching the video, that I did not have my camera set to focus on me when I'm talking. So unfortunately, the first probably 14 minutes or so, the camera is just focused on Micah, which I'm sure he probably won't appreciate him just being displayed through the whole entire time of me speaking. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have like a photo of me on the screen when I'm talking. And then when it cuts to Micah, then we'll have the video. And then if I'm talking, it'll be my photo. But then when I get to the presentation, you'll see both of us on the screen. But in the second video, I did have the settings set correctly. So it does focus on me when I am speaking. Yeah. Live and learn. So whatever. So let's just go ahead and jump into those videos. And like I said, you know, for those of you who have already been watching all the videos, you know, this may be boring for you. I don't know. You might get something out of it too. So, you know, give it a shot. And if not, you know, I apologize, but it just was interesting to get someone else's perspective. Of course, you know, Mike is more into the astrology, the zodiac side of all of this. But he did say he got something out of it. I think he wants to use a portion of the information in his next book or one of his next books, which I thought was cool. So yeah, there you have it. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this and we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the 1111 Matrix Code Revealed. As always, I am your host, Garrett King. And tonight we have a really special guest on the show. This is my first guest ever. It's Mr. Micah Dank. How are you doing, Mr. Micah Dank?
Good. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you to be here.
See the beard you've got going on there. You look wise. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, hopefully I'm as wise as I look. I've been reading your books. I think I told you that in the Instagram DMs, and I'm halfway through the second one, and I am absolutely loving these books. I mean, it's just this great adventure. I'm just like, like turning the page.
You see why I had to write this information in fiction, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I think you even said in one of your interviews that you can kind of get away with more in fiction than you can if you...
Yeah, look at 1984.
Yeah.
It's basically a blueprint for today. Yeah. So I studied the great, like Jules Verne, Aldous Huxley, all their stuff. And I was like, you know what? Let me write a fiction series. And it's been just taken off.
Yeah. Did you say there's going to be 8 books in this series?
Yeah. So I have 6 are out. My 7th is with my publisher.
Awesome.
And I've got all the notes printed out for book 8. I just have to kind of highlight them and know which is going to go into what chapter. I kind of have the first 5 chapters figured out in my head without giving anything away for the stories, though. But the big reveal in the end of book 2 that you're going to get to is pretty mind-blowing.
Oh, cool. I cannot
So basically, the series is me. Graham is loosely based on me, very loosely based on me, based on my journey, and dealing with things like drinking and being red pilled and everything. And, but all the information in it that's true, all the facts that I drop, it's all true.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is awesome. I mean, I've been, it reminds me, I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times, but it does remind me very much of the Da Vinci Code. Just the adventure and the way it's written in it.
Well, he's a huge influence on me, Dan Brown.
Is he?
just the way that he puts occult knowledge into it, and he like cryptograms, anagrams, that I kind of bit off his style a little bit. And I kind of made it my own. If the Da Vinci Code was a bunch of like young wise ass kids, that's kind of what my storyline would be like, whereas Robert Langdon is he's older, he's elder, he's proper, he's distinguished. My characters are not. They're just figuring things out as they go along, and all the hardships of the 20s,
Right. That's amazing. It's amazing. How long does it, how long have you been, like, when did you start the series? Like, when did book one? I didn't look to see
I wrote book one in 2013.
2013.
And it took me about 2 years to write, because it was my first book. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know the characters. I didn't have like a blueprint yet. It took me about 2 years. Then it took me another 3 years, or 2.5, 3 years to get an agent. And then it took me another 2 years after that to get a publishing deal. So, but basically I wrote 2 through 6. So I wrote book one, it took me 2.5 years. 2 through 6, I wrote in 2.5 years. Book 7, I wrote in 19 days.
Wow. Oh, wow. I wish I love writing. I love reading, but I don't think I can do what you do. I just don't. Well, let's go ahead and get started here. I know that you said you checked out the YouTube channel. Have you looked at anything on there, or?
I just checked it out. I just saw what you were talking about. It's a young channel, so
yeah, it's
I look, to be honest with you, I do podcasts with millions of people. I do podcasts with 10 people. I don't care.
Yeah.
If you rub me the right way, I'll do your show, kind of thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah. So I haven't really gone through yours. I've been incredibly busy. I've been selling a lot of book series. Because not only do you get it on Amazon, but I sell them from my house too, signed. I sell signed copies. And in our community, in like the truther community, people don't want to give Bezos money, and I'm there for it.
Right. Totally understood. Yeah. Well, I just wanted to ask that, because I didn't want to repeat a bunch of stuff if you'd already seen what was going on. So, I'm going to try to go through this as quick as I can, because I don't want to take up, too much of your time. But I kind of want to start from the beginning, and I'm just going to come right out and ask you, what are your thoughts on the paranormal?
Oh, that's such a big topic. I mean,
it is.
Well, let me hold on a sec, if you don't mind a sec.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just going to read you the topics that I address in my book series, okay? And you let me know which ones are paranormal.
Okay.
I talk about Gematria, etymology, numerology, astronomy, astrology, astrotheology, out-of-body experiences, the Akashic records, symbology, remote viewing, religious secrets, capstones of the pyramids, mystery school channelers, near-death experiencing, DMT monitoring, lucid dreaming, acoustic levitation, physics and quantum physics, psychotherapy, psychology, spiritual guides, shared dreaming, crystal technology, conspiracies that not many people know about, corruption, and secret societies. So those are kind of like all the topics that I broach in my book series.
Okay, that's a wide range. Well, maybe we should approach it this way. Maybe I should just kind of go through this, and then you tell me what you think of it. The reason I asked about the paranormal side of it is because the beginning part of it feels like a paranormal experience. And I've already been called numerous times a liar, that I'm making this stuff up, that I'm a government psyop. So I'm obviously rubbing.
I'm starting to get that now too.
Are you?
People give me shit because people give me shit because I'm a Freemason. So people assume right now that I'm this plant from the evil corporation. It's nonsense.
That's exactly what I'm getting. That's exactly what I'm getting.
And I tell people the same thing when they come at me. They're like, "You're a Mason, dude." I'm like, I'm here to answer questions. If you're going to be polite, I can answer questions about it. It's not a secret.
Right.
The only secret is the stuff that they keep within. I mean, don't you have you and your family, maybe you have special handshakes or inside jokes. It's the same thing, you know, and the only thing you need to do to join is to apply. You literally need to apply, and then they do a background check on you. So yeah, so I've been getting a lot of stuff lately because I came out as a Mason online yesterday. Is today Saturday?
Oh.
Yeah, so yesterday.
Oh, wow. So that was just,
I came out yesterday.
wow. That's super recent.
Yeah.
That's super recent.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome though. Yeah, but I mean, I'm just getting so much crap from people, but it's okay. I mean, it's okay. So let me just start from the very beginning, telling you how this whole thing started. So in 2009, I went through this period where I just started waking up at 3:33 a.m. in the morning. And the first night that it happened, obviously I didn't think anything about it. The number meant absolutely nothing to me. I just woke up, looked at the clock. That was the time. The next night, it happened again. The third night, and the fourth night, and the fifth. And this is no joke. I mean, and people, I know how ridiculous it sounds, but this started in January and did not end until November. And it was every freaking night. I went through a whole process of checking to see if I had like, you know, a watch or something stored away in a drawer that, you know, like the alarm was going off at that time for whatever reason. I had roommates at the time. I asked them if they were getting up in the middle of the night, just trying to rationalize, trying to figure out what is causing me to wake up. Couldn't find anything. So when it ended in November, and I know it was November because I had a dream that my father came to visit me, and he had passed away 2 years prior to this. And in the dream, he was coming out of my closet of my bedroom, and I saw him and I looked at him and I said, "What are you doing here?" And before he could answer, I woke up. And when I woke up, it was 7:15 in the morning. It was the first time in practically a year I had slept through the entire night like that without waking up at 3:33. After that time, never woke up at that time ever again after that. Now, fast forward to 2014. This is the year that I married my husband, and I legally changed my name to my husband's last name. But nobody told me that when we got married, if I signed the marriage certificate with his last name, that would have legally changed my name right then and there. So I actually had to go through the court process of doing it, you know, in front of a judge and all that. That didn't actually take place until 2015. Shortly after that, there was an evening when my husband went to bed early. I stayed up doing some writing. Around 10:30, I went to bed, did a little bit of reading before I, you know, decided to just, you know, put my Kindle away and go to sleep. And probably read for about 20 minutes and then decided it was time to, you know, go to bed. I put the Kindle down. I lay there. I closed my eyes. And within just like a matter of seconds almost, it's as if someone had wheeled one of those giant spotlights that you see like in car lots, you know, that shine up into the sky and you can see it from miles around. It was like someone had wheeled one of those right in front of my face and turned it on. I was just suddenly seeing this through my eyelids, this massive, bright white light. And the odd thing is, instead of just opening my eyes to see what it was, I literally laid there trying to rationalize what it was. I thought, okay, maybe someone's pulled in, their headlights are shining through the window. But that wouldn't make any sense because we were on the second floor. And then I thought, oh, you know, like, holy crap.
Now, are you sure you were awake, or could that have been a lucid dream?
I was absolutely awake. I could still hear the dog snoring. I could hear the fan in the room blowing, my husband, you know, breathing. And again, I had just literally closed my eyes.
Right, understood. Okay.
So, and then I thought, you know, someone had broken in, they were shining a flashlight in my face. But then I thought to myself, well, if that was the case, how come the dogs aren't reacting, or, you know, I didn't hear any noise? And so at that moment is when I decided to open my eyes. And as soon as, like, I'm seeing this bright white light, I open my eyes, the room is pitch dark, just black. And I'm like, whoa, that was weird. So I look over at the clock and it's 11:11 p.m. Again, didn't think anything about the time. The number meant nothing to me. The next day I go to work, I'm talking to a coworker, I'm telling her what happened with the bright white light. And she said, it sounds to me like someone was trying to come visit you. And I just made a half-assed joke about, well, if they were, they needed to come during normal business hours, not at, 11 o'clock at night when I'm trying to go to sleep. And we talked for a few more minutes. I go to my cubicle, start working. A couple of hours pass. I start feeling hungry. I look up in the right-hand corner of the computer to see what time it was. And again, it was 11:11, this time AM. And I had this brief thought in my head of, this shit better not be starting again. And I couldn't have been more wrong, because from that moment forward, I started seeing this number everywhere. It was just coming to me all the time. It'd be on receipts of something I purchased. It would be on vehicles. I could be driving down the highway and a truck would pass. There'd be this huge number down the side of it, but right in the middle would be 11111. I mean, it was just showing itself to me so much. And this went on for like quite a while. I mean, and it was so consistent that I could not deny that this number is being presented to me for a reason. I just didn't know what. So I started digging to see if there was any connections that I had to the number 11 or 1111. So the first thing I did, and let me go ahead and share my screen with you. Let's see. All right. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. So one of the things I did is I just started looking, at anything that had numbers in it that related to me. So at the time that all of this started taking place, we lived at 3260 South Lakewood Avenue, apartment 7A, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 74135. Now, the first thing I noticed was that the first four numbers in the address totaled 11, but that all of the numbers in the address equaled 38, and 3 and 8 is 11. So from this address, we moved to 8111 South 77th East Avenue, apartment 202, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 74133. And again, I noticed the first four digits equal 11, and that when you add up all of the numbers in the address, it equals 47, and 4 and 7 is 11. And I was like, okay, that's weird. But then I started realizing, well, I already knew, but I mean, it's just, I'm finding these connections. I was born September 2nd, 9 and 2 is 11. And September 2nd is the 245th day of the year. And 2 plus 4 plus 5 equals 11.
Right.
And then you have to keep in mind that I legally changed my name to my husband's last name, which is King. And so my name, Garrett King, became 11 letters. And first name ends in K, last name begins with K, and K is the 11th letter of the alphabet. So it's like it's encoded right in the middle of my name, 1111.
Right.
Then my father was born April 7th. 4 and 7 is 11. He died in the month of November, another 11. His father died in November, another 11. So as you can see, I had all these connections, and then just seeing the number over and over and over, it just kept eating at me. There's something to this. Like, why is this number popping up? So in June of 2022. So in 2021, in June, there was a day that I was seeing 1111 like all over the place, like 4 or 5 times all in one day. And it got my mind thinking about that number and the 333. And I had this thought, is there any connection between these two numbers? And the reason I asked about paranormal is because it's like this thought popped into my head. It wasn't a voice, but it was like a thought. And the thought was to multiply those two numbers together. So I did. So 1111 times 333, whoops, hit too many. Good Lord. Okay, times 333. We get the number 369963. That number stood out to me for two reasons. One, it's a palindrome. It's the same forwards and backwards. But also 369, if you're familiar with Nikola Tesla, he's quoted as saying, if you only understood the magnificence of the 369, you would hold a key to the universe.
Yeah.
So that number stood out to me. But I didn't know what I was supposed to do with this number. And another thought popped into my head, and that thought was now add 1111 to this number. So I did. The number we get is 371074. I looked at this number and for a couple of days was like, okay, this is telling me nothing. It's just a number. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Literally 2 days rock on, and then suddenly another thought pops into my head, and that thought was now add 369963 to this number and every new number that you get. And so I did. So when you add 369963, the new number you get is 741037. Do you notice anything with those two numbers? This is the first one, 371074. The next one is 741037. It's almost the same number, but the 3 and 7 and the 7 and 4 are switched.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, I wasn't picking up on something that's staring me right in the face. But again, the thought was continue adding 369963 to every new number that you get. So I did. The third number starts with 1111. And it'll continue like that. And I'm trying to make this as quick as I can. What happened was I started looking at these numbers, and somewhere along what I did was, as you can see on the screen, I totaled the numbers to see what they would equal. They equal 22, and of course reduces to 4. But 22 is a master number, which technically you're not supposed to reduce master numbers down past that number. So like 11 is a master number, 22 is a master number, 33, and so on. What I wasn't seeing that was staring me right in the face is that, let me pull up my my other spreadsheet here. So 2 and 2 reduced to 4. And again, I don't know where these thoughts and ideas came from to try this, but what it was telling me was to focus on the last 4 numbers, 1074, and then add the remaining number to it. So I did. 1074 plus 37 is 1111. The next number, the last 4 is 1037. Add 74. We get 1111. The third number ends in 1,000. Move those 3 ones over, you're back to 1111. Every single number does this. And I have taken this equation all the way to 24 billion on this spreadsheet, and I continued it on the next one all the way up to 100 billion. As the number grows, you take the last 4 and then the next 4 and then whatever's remaining, and you just add them up. Every single number comes back to 1111. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. So I start looking at the numbers even closer, and I start seeing these patterns taking place. So the first pattern was just the last digits of every single number. So as you can see, it starts 4, 7, and then goes to 0. Now, something interesting, and I'm not saying that this means anything, but just something interesting was I was 47 at the time all of this started unraveling. And then it goes to 0. And then we have this pattern where it goes 3, 6, 9, 2, 5, 8, 1, 4, 7, 0. And then it starts over 3, 6, 9, 2, 5, 8, 1, 4, 7, 0. It's over and over and over. Every single number ends in this pattern. The other thing I noticed was that the last 4 digits are going down by the number 37, and the remaining numbers are going up by the number 37. Now, there's a website called the 37 Jesus Code. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or if you've ever seen it, but this person using Gematria has tied the number 37 to Jesus Christ. So I've been exploring that, but I don't speak or read Hebrew. So, his site's kind of confusing to me at times. But again, just looking at these patterns, things started forming. One of the things that and again, I was just playing around with numbers. I just wanted to see what these numbers would do. So I just wanted to see what would happen if I took the first number and added it to the second number. We get the number 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. Again, using that key, as I'm calling it, you take the last 4 digits, add the remaining, you now get the number 2, 2, 2. The second number will give you 3, 3, 3, 3. And then we get 44, 44, and so on, as you can see here. And it'll go all the way down to where it gets to 11, 11, and then, and again, it actually ends with a 0, but using that key of 4, move the 1 over, you're back to 11, 11, and the whole process starts over every single time. So reducing these numbers down, so like 11, 11 becomes 4, 22, 22 becomes 8, and so on. I got this pattern of 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, and so on. I took all the double digits, reduced those down, and got 4, 8, 3, 7, 2, 6, 1, 5, 9. Went to the internet, I punched that in, and the first thing it brought up was something called the Vedic Square. That number runs straight through the middle and back the other direction, and from the top down and from the bottom back up. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. And it forms this cross symbol. But through the numbers, I was seeing other symbols forming. So 333, for example, represented to me a short line, and 1111 represented a longer line, and then 369 represented a sort of step up pattern and then a step back down. By doing that, you would get this. And this is the pyramid of the sun. And just a couple of facts here. The length of this pyramid is 720 feet. 7 and 2 is 9. And the width is 740 feet. 7 and 4 is 11. Another symbol that popped up was from the first 2 numbers. The 371074 and 741037. So it goes this way and back. If we put 10 on both sides, it would go up and down as well, and it matches up perfectly to the Aztec sunstone. And as I was going through this and showing it to my brother and showing it to a couple of coworkers, when I was telling them, how to, like, when you take the last 4 and then you add the remaining, I was doing this movement with my mouse where I was drawing a line underneath it and swooping over. And to me, this sort of seemed to represent another symbol of possibly the setting sun. And then, of course, the pattern of the numbers going 369, 258, 147, which exactly matches the calculator. It seems to represent 3 arrows pointing up, but pointing up at what? And I kept thinking, the sun. And then, of course, the symbol from the Vedic Square, the cross, is also another representation of the sun. So we wind up with these 5 distinct symbols, or at least that's how I'm interpreting it or seeing it. And the thought was going through my head, okay, is it talking about the sun S-U-N or the sun S-O-N? So looking at these numbers, I started just trying different things. It's like there has to be something to this. Like, what is, what does all of this mean? I still don't know what any of this means. So the first thing I did was I went to what is it, Gematrix, or I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but it's like gematrix.org. And then there was also the Gematrinator calculator. And I just punched in the number 333. I wanted to see what phrases would come up from that number. So we get the tool, we get magic secret, speaking in code, hidden intelligence, a code to find God, angelic host, looped time, earth ends, and message of end. And then with 1111, we get the quantum number, the architect of the matrix, great ability to cipher code, hidden knowledge. And the one that really stood out to me, the beginning is the end and the end is the beginning, because that's exactly what this number here is representing to me, because the beginning, 37, is the end, and 74 is the end becomes the beginning. So these phrases like really started sticking out to me. And then even Gematria is anagram equals great I am. Now, as you'll see here, there's this one called Who is Bob? And the reason I put that there is because when this first started happening, I received an email to my work email, which is odd that it would come to my work email. And the only reason I can think of that it would come to my work email is to ensure that I would see it. Because if it came to my personal email, I get so much junk, I was liable to just delete it and not even think anything about it. The email was from someone named Bob. And the subject line and the body of the email, the only thing it said was a note from the universe. And that was it. I didn't reply to it straight away, because at first I was taken back by the email. And then I started thinking like, okay, well, if this is just a coincidence, it's a fluke. If I reply, how do I know it's not some sort of phishing email? But again, I looked at the dates, the numbers, I equaled those or totaled those up, and they reduced to 9. And then after much prodding from a coworker, I finally did reply in October of last year. After I replied, I looked at the numbers, and it's strange to me that the first email came June 25th, and I should just so happen to reply on October 25th, the exact same day. Completely unintentional. Wasn't even paying any attention to the time or day that I sent it. Looking at the date and the time, I totaled all those numbers up, and they also equal 9. So that sent me on this sort of quest where I discovered, I didn't discover it, but I came across what is known as, I can find it here, the power of 9, which I'm sure you know all about this. Mm-hmm. So, and of course, the whole pyramid with 9 being the ruling number. And that, of course, led me to Vortex Math. Have you heard of Vortex Math?
Yeah.
Okay. So the sequence of Vortex Math is 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, and then it repeats, which when you look at the numbers, if you draw a line from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 7, 7 to 5, back to 1, you wind up with the infinity symbol, which ties back into, what's it here? Looped time, because it's just this, like loop that just repeats over and over and over again. So let's go back here. So that just kind of led me down this other path. And let's see here. I'm probably gonna have to skip over because there's a whole lot here, but I'm trying to give you the basics of it, but not try to just inundate you with so much all at once. So let's go back. One of the things that I discovered when I was just playing around with these numbers, with the number 369963, is again, I don't know how I, came across this other than just being kind of guided to do so. I learned that if you took 369963 and you added any 4-digit number to this number, so I'm just going to come up with, I don't know, we'll add 3657. Okay. So the new number we get starts with 37, and the remaining numbers are 3620. So again, using that key of taking the last 4 and adding the remaining numbers, you wind up with the 4-digit number that you originally added to it. So 3620 plus 37 is 3657, the number I just put into it. And so I was kind of just, again, playing around, and I put in our current year. So 369963. This was, of course, in 2021. So I added 2021, and it gives me 371984. That stood out to me because of 1984, George Orwell, but also 1984 was 11 years after I was born. So again, it's kind of chasing that 11 number. So the question became, well, what number do I need to put in to actually get the current year for it to say 3/7/2021? And the answer to that was, or is, 2058. So I go to the internet, and it's hard to research a year that has not even happened yet, but I just typed in 2058. And I come across an article called Apocalypse 2058, written in The Guardian. And this article was written in the year 2000. And it's all about this geophysicist named Didier Sornay. And he's talking about, through using the Dow Jones Index, that he is calculating that some sort of singularity, some sort of event is going to take place in the year 2058. And he said that the numbers just spike off the chart. And one of the other things is that he was able to look at this calculation and determine that our population is also going to spike at this time. So again, I go to the internet and I just typed in the question, how many billion people live on the earth? Google gave me the response of 7.8 billion people. With the world population at 7.8 billion people as of March 2020 and typical projections of population growth, Earth will be in a state of human overpopulation by 2050 or sooner. Well, 2050 is not that far from 2058. But interestingly enough, when you put the number 2058 in that gematrix.org website, one of the phrases that this number will generate is Earth can't sustain 7 billion people. And then we also have many deadly diseases of the apocalypse. We get a breakaway society, and revelations become evident. So looking at that 37-year, or that 37 number, I just started putting in, like, what's going on in 2021? Well, we were in the middle of COVID. Well, 37 years before that was 1984, and we were in the middle of the AIDS crisis. 37 years before that, in 1947, was the Panic of 1947, which was a smallpox outbreak in New York. Then in 37 years before that was the Manchurian Plague. 37 years before that was an epidemic of 1873 of cholera. And 37 years before that was a typhus outbreak in Philadelphia. And then, of course, we get this phrase, many deadly diseases of the apocalypse, all from that number 2058. So, and it's just, to me, it was just like all these connections, these coincidences, these phrases, and coming across this article talking about this exact same year, this number 2058. And again, I was like, what does this mean? So one of the other things that came up, and this was through, let's see here. Find it. So one of the other things that I tried doing was, since we split the numbers after the last 4 and had the remaining numbers, I wanted to see what these numbers would generate through Gematria. Typed in the number 37, couldn't get anything to come up, but I just put Jesus there because that's what that website, the 37 Jesus code, seems to point towards, is that number. But the last 4, 1074, we get the phrase, behold Jesus. We also get 4 by 4, and I'll come to that here in just a second. We get simulated reality, the name that equals Christ. Look up, it is God the Most High. These phrases made me, I mean, it was just like seeing these connections with like these symbols, look up. And then we have look up, you know, it's God the Most High, a son declared by the math of God. Signs, the matrix is real, reality is a hoax. So there's all these different phrases popping up. And then we even get on this number, Bob is real. And the last portion, this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the 7th number that was generated, the last 4. So the first number, it begins with 0, so that doesn't calculate. So you're only left with 852, which also gave the phrase, is it true Bob is real? And 259, the beginning of it seems to answer the question, Bob is real. And then there was this phrase here that I've highlighted, decode the binary code. Some of these numbers through this whole entire sequence look like binary code. So let me just go back. So for example, this first number, the 1111 and then 3 zeros. And then this number, 111, then we have 4 zeros and then another 1. And there's just a whole string of these all throughout all of these numbers. So I actually went through, found a binary code to text translator and put in all those numbers. And I, from the translator, showed that those numbers were separated or were actually 8 numbers. So, and they all started with a 0. So like with the first number, I put a 0 before it and then 1, 1, 1, 1, and then finished it out that way, just split everything out, you know, with 8 digits. By doing that, I received this message. It wasn't even a message. It was this gobbledygook that you see right here, this XPK / : and then this whole string of crap right here. So I copy that. I go to the internet, just paste it in just to see if it would pull up anything. Nothing came up. But as I was looking at it, I thought this looks like a directory. And so I was thinking, okay, this first portion is a directory and this last portion is like a file name. So I just copied just this last part, pasted it in, and it led me to a website for the Security Exchange Commission. And the interesting connection here, and there's a couple, but the business phone number is 333 and then 1111 at the very end. And then through doing some research, I discovered that Didier Sournay, the geophysicist, was a board member of Credit Suisse Bank or Credit Suisse AG. And I was like, what is going on here? Like with these weird connections. But the interesting thing is, I actually made an error when I was doing these calculations. And I can't remember which number it was, but when I was first doing this, before I realized I could have the program numbers do all the calculations for me, I was doing it by hand. And so, you know, I did the first portion, moved the number over, added 369963, got the new number, and then I hand typed it over, did the equation again, moved it over, all by hand. Well, somewhere along the lines, I fat fingered a number and I typed a 9 instead of an 8, which I was sitting here one day just working, and when those weird thoughts popped into my head, and that thought was, check your numbers. And I was like, okay. So I go through, and that's when I found the error. But it's just odd to me, which, let me back up here just a second. By finding that error, it changed the outcome of all of those numbers that look like binary code. So the interesting part of that is that even though I made an error, it still led me to this connection with this Credit Suisse bank, the phone number 333-1111, a connection back to Diddy or Sornay. It's almost like these puzzle pieces. And I was like, man, this is like, what is going on? I'm still like not, I still don't know 100% what all of this means, if it means anything at all. But going and checking, I typed in the address for that Credit Suisse bank into Google Earth, and I just thought this was interesting. But the first image I clicked on in Google Earth was this image here. And looking at this red bag just totally made me reflect back to the symbol coming up in the Vedic Square, which of course this is just the Swiss flag. But then also the number on this train here was 2111. And I was like, whoa, that's just getting more and more weird. So let me back up here. One of the other things that I was talking about just a moment ago with the 4x4 is looking at the first number, the 371074. I wanted to see if what would happen if I took it almost like a Vedic grid, but just put the numbers in from 37 all the way over to 74, 74 down to 37, 37 back over to 74, and then back up to 37. Well, by doing that, it produces a 4x4 Vedic square, which I don't know if you know what a Vedic square is, but it's basically just a multiplication table where all of the double-digit numbers have been reduced to a single digit. Mm-hmm. So, and then of course, we have 2 rows left over at the end. And when you take all of these numbers, like 1 and 2, you get 3, 2 and 4 is 6, 3 and 6 is 9. And they start reducing, and you wind up with that same 369, 369, 369 over and over and over and over again. And again, what the interesting part of that is that the 369 and Nikola Tesla saying, if you only understood the magnificence of these numbers, you would hold a key to the universe. I get the email from Bob saying a note from the universe. And then when I was reading your first book, one of your characters was talking about the sound of Om and having the frequency of 136.1. So looking at those numbers, I was like, those numbers equal 11. So I go back to the email that I got from Bob, and I started thinking, whoa. When I replied to this email in October, I just replied, what is the message? Because that's what I thought it was saying. Like, it's a note from the universe. Okay, well, what's the note? What are you trying to tell me? And when I typed in the 136.1 into the internet, it pulled up a video where someone called it the cosmic note. And I was like, whoa, is this not a message? Is it referencing this Om, this sound, this frequency? So that was one of the connections that I felt like I'd made when I was reading your book. So let's see here. Let's just go a little bit further. Let's go back to the spreadsheet over here, actually. So some of the phrases that came up was when you type the name Jesus into Gematria, and this is using the Jewish cipher, and I don't know why all of this is working with just that particular cipher. I have no idea. But one of the phrases that came up was find the zodiac proof. So again, that like just kind of led me back to your writing, find the zodiac proof. So I started looking at that website that I told you about, the 37 Jesus code, and typing in these phrases from Genesis 1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Using that Jewish cipher, it gives the value of 1894, which 1 plus 8 plus 9 plus 4 equals 22. And that number, 1894, will give you the phrase through Gematria, number 37, which connects back to all these numbers going up and down by the number 37. We also get the phrase, the mathematical universe of creation. And I was like, whoa. And the other interesting thing is, of course, 11 plus 11 is 22. When you take the first number and you multiply it like 3 plus 7 plus 1 plus 0 plus 7 plus 4, you get 22. Again, the numbers go up and down by the number 37. 37 is the 12th prime number. 73 is the 21st prime number. And when you add the numbers like this, 37 plus 10 plus 74, you get 121. So we have 12 at the beginning, 21 at the end. And one other interesting thing is the Hebrew Bible, this exact phrase, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In the Hebrew Bible, it gives you the value of 2701. Now, 2701 plus its mirror opposite of 1072 gives you 3773. So again, the numbers going up and down by 37, and then we have the mirror opposite right behind it. Now, the name Jesus gives the value of 985. 9 plus 8 plus 5 is 22. Christ, which is we both know is not Jesus's last name, but that gives the value of 290, which 2 plus 9 is 11. And then the whole entire name, Jesus Christ, again, using the Jewish cipher, gives us the phrase, I am summer solstice solar eclipse, and his true coded scriptures. Now, that phrase, I am summer solstice solar eclipse, that led me down another rabbit hole. And in 1982, we had a summer solstice solar eclipse. We hadn't had one before that, except like in the late 1800s, I believe. 19 years later, we had one in 2001. 19 years after that, we had one in 2020. We're supposed to have another one in 2039. And then we'll have another one in 2058. And we're not supposed to have another one after that for nearly 200 years. So looking at this, it's a 19-year cycle, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 specific 19-year cycles. Reduce 19 down to 10, and then of course that reduces down to 1. You're left with 4 ones. You're back to 11, 11. I started looking at the dates. I added up all of the numbers in the dates, and they reduced to 29, 12, 13, 23, and 24, which further reduces down to the sequence of 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And just the year alone, so 1982, 2001, 2020, 2039, 2058, those will reduce down to 20, 3, 4, 14, and 15, which further reduces to 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So again, it was showing me another repeating pattern. I go back to the Gematria website. I just punch in the number 23456. The only thing that comes up, and I will show you this right here really quickly. Let's see. This is the only thing that comes up. And it's all these numbers spelled out. So I actually put them here, but then I put them down as though they were actually, the numerical side of it, the number side of it, and match that up to our English alphabet, and it produces the phrase multiple infinite waves of love, which I thought was interesting. But when you add all those numbers up, you get the number 333, and through Gematria, it gives you the phrase end of times. So again, that was odd.
Go back to the other thing. Go back to the website.
Let's see. Right here.
You see where it says 37 searches?
Oh, I didn't catch that. Wow. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, that is odd. So, and that's the way that this whole thing has been happening for me. These numbers just come out of nowhere, and they show up all the time, just repeated over and over and over and over and over. So I'm going to skip over some stuff just a little bit. And if you ever decide you want to go check out that 37 Jesus code, there's a lot of stuff about Psalms 22 and that number we just saw a moment ago, 22.
Uh-huh.
It forms this pyramid shape. Yeah, and that's the other thing I came up with. Now, what I'm going to skip over is I've made connections with this number 1111 and the new Matrix film. They've hidden stuff in this film that actually points to this number. I don't know if you want me to go over that with you or not, if you just want to skip it.
I mean, we should probably break this down into 2 episodes, to be honest with you, because I have to take off and I have to go do another one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But can you explain to me this multiple infinite waves of love again?
Like how I got to that?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I went to the gematrix.org website and I typed in the 23456, it generated this. So all those numbers spelled out. What I did is I wrote them down as numerically, so 13 is 13, 21, 21, 12, 12. So what I did is I matched these numbers up to the alphabet, and it produces this message here, multiple infinite waves of love. So M would be the 13th letter, U would be the 21st letter of the alphabet, and so on. Again, I have no idea what it means, but I just found it interesting. And the fact that we get from, Jesus being I am summer solstice solar eclipse, and finding out that we have these 19-year cycles that we're going through right now, where we're supposed to have these summer solstice solar eclipses happening on June 21st in all of these dates.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'll get to this part really quickly for you. So looking at the numbers, I just became like, there has to be something with these numbers, the 369, 258, 147. So again, I put it into a pyramid shape, 9 at the top, 3 in the lower right, 6 in the lower left. And then just like a clock, 1 and 2 between 9 and 3, 4 and 5 between 3 and 6, and so on. So when you draw a line from the next sequence, because it goes 3, 6, 9, 2, 5, 8. So from 2 to 5, 5 to 8, 8 back to 2, we get this. The next number in the sequence is 147. So we get this, the Star of David. It's often known as the Creator's Star or Star of Creation. And then I wondered what would happen if I started connecting the points within the star. As soon as I started doing this, a 3D shape popped out to me instead of what I was actually seeing. So let me move these out of the way. But right in the center, we have this cube.
Right.
And you can see where you would have this top, or not the top, but the sides of another cube and the bottom, but we're missing the top and the back. So I just started putting in these cube shapes where they should go like that. And we wind up with the same symbol that the Vedic Square produced. So I then started looking at it and wondered, well, if I extended those lines out past this, we get this, which gives us 12 exact places for the zodiac.
Wow.
Yeah. With the cross being the sun, S-U-N or S-O-N, right in the center. And that is where I felt like all of this was leading me towards what you do and the stuff that you've discovered and have been writing about.
Right. Wow.
And I mean, there's way more to this. There's tons of connections. And I've actually heard you use this word the other day. I can't remember where I was watching the interview that you were doing, but you said that you have been accused of cherry picking, what was it, phrases or something out of the Bible and matching them up. I've been accused of cherry picking numbers, you know, and I'm not. These numbers are coming from the math itself. I'm not just picking and choosing, you know, these numbers. So I've been accused of this being a government psyop. In fact, this one particular gentleman has made it his goal to try to discredit me. He had a YouTube video, or not a YouTube video, but a YouTube channel where he claims to be a business entrepreneur. And he deleted all of his videos and changed the whole entire focus just about me. And made a whole video saying that I was full of crap. Well, because he actually is using images from my video, I was able to have his video taken down for copyright infringement. So he moves over to Odyssey, starts posting there. So someone points it out to me. I go and look. Sure enough, he's making videos. I contact them. I say, hey, this guy's posting my stuff in his videos. He does not have the rights to do so. I hold all the copyright claims to it. So they took his videos down there as well. But just the fact that he has gone to such lengths makes me feel like I'm onto something.
Yeah.
And that's how you can usually tell, because they don't usually try to discredit your work. They try to discredit you, because if they can discredit you, then your work is just...
Yeah, believe me, I hear that. I wish someone would try and make videos discrediting my work. Just going to give me more exposure. Can you go back to that? I'm sorry, I can't get over that thing, the infinite love. Can you go back to that? Would you care? Can I use that in a book?
Sure. Absolutely.
I ask permission for everyone that gets written into my book, or anybody whose work gets into my book. I just want permission. Hold on, let me take a screenshot of this.
And I can send this to you too if you need.
No, there's too much. It is too much.
Yeah, it is.
But okay, so I have this. And where did you find this from?
The phrasing, it came up on gematrix.org.
Okay, so
but the number, the 23456, was generated from these summer solstice solar eclipses that we've been having since 1982 to 2058. And it's reducing the numbers in the years down. it forms that sequence 2, 3, 4, 5,
When you
which is
reduce the
odd.
numbers in when you reduce the numbers in the years, so 6/21/1982, how would you reduce that?
I would just add 6 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 2. You get 29, which is interesting because 2 and 9 is 11. And let's see, 1982. So 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 2 is 20. How did I do that? Well, 20, which would reduce to 2. Oh, I put the 11 there because 2 and 9 equals 11. That's what that was. Sorry. But yeah, so 1982, because what I did was I did the entire date first, and that's where I got the number 29. And then I went through and just reduced the numbers in the year.
Jesus, this is nuts.
Yeah.
You're definitely onto something.
Well, that's what I feel like. But at the same time, I've been questioning if I'm just not going crazy. Now, I want to show you something really quickly.
All right.
I kept asking my brother, why me? Why is this information coming to me? And he's like, I don't know, dude. Well, I know how this is going to sound. But like, I'm not a mathematician. I hated math growing up in school, so I don't know why all this stuff has been coming to me through numbers. But when you type in, let's see, in God, Garrick King is the chosen mathematician. Look at the number that it produces.
Oh, wow.
Not only that, what was the other one? Garrick King decodes the God matrix.
Wow.
Now, keep in mind, I did not start seeing 1111 until after I legally changed my name. Before I changed my name, my last name was Staggs, and that produces the number 1340.
Wow.
So it was only after.
So do you still have enough that we could do another video?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, there's a lot. I've tied this into 9/11. I think this either predicted 9/11 through the numbers, or someone is aware of this and they have calculated this through these numbers. I don't know, but the plane flights, the number of passengers, the dates can all come back to 11 or 11/11.
Okay. All right, man. So message me when we get off.
Okay.
I have to do another podcast, but let's definitely do a follow-up.
Okay. Absolutely.
This was great, man. You're on to something. I think you keep getting lucky with figuring things out. I think you need to find somebody who's like a true Gematria expert and run it by them.
Yeah, I totally agree. I
think it's very, when you first come into these kind of esoteric knowledges, you have the ability, you have to stay grounded because you'll just fly off into the atmosphere.
And as you can see, I mean, all of this is kind of just branched off in so many different directions.
Right.
And the way that I've been viewing this as like, it's a puzzle.
Right.
And every piece of it is it's just one piece that's forming a much, much bigger picture.
Right.
But I'm not there yet.
I would find somebody who's an expert in Gematria.
Okay.
And definitely give them this presentation, but I'm gonna head out.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and, like I said, let's do another episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you giving me the time to look at this. And
no, this is great. I got something out of it too that I'm gonna use. This is wonderful.
Yeah, and I mean, you are more than welcome to use anything that I've shown. And like I said, it goes much, much deeper than what I've been able to show you just tonight.
I know. I'm very excited to continue this. So let me go and send me a message. Give me some days when you're available.
Awesome. Thanks. I certainly will.
Thanks, Garrick. I appreciate it. What does your husband think of this?
He's he's not really into any of this. So yeah, I mean, he's
sometimes opposites work better that way.
right.
My wife isn't my wife reads all my stuff. She supports me, but she doesn't see things the way that I do 100%, which is good, because you don't want two people that are gonna argue over things like this. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
So it kind of
Exactly.
works. But yeah, give me a couple days and we'll definitely pick this up.
Awesome. I appreciate everything, and I appreciate you giving me the time to present this to you.
Thanks, Garrick. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Micah.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the 1111 Matrix Code Revealed. As always, I am your host, Garrick King. And today we have Micah Dank back. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Doing very well. So you've had a couple of days since our last talk, and I'm sure you've had time to digest everything I was showing you. So what did you think? What was your overall thoughts about what I was showing you the other day?
I mean, I was unable to process everything because there was a lot going on there. But I remember thinking, I was like, your level of commitment to this and your unveiling of the information is very similar to what I do, how I approach my work. I'd just love to hear more.
Well, it's when these, like I said, that the first number 333 being presented to me every night for practically an entire year, and then seeing 1111, it's just become this driving force. And it's like, it's like, why? And it's like, I'm obsessed now with figuring out why, what is going on? What does this mean? So that's why I'm just dedicated. I mean, like 100% dedicated to this, trying to figure it out. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen with you here. Okay, thought I lost you there for a second. All right, so the first thing I want to do this morning, or it's morning for me, it's afternoon for you, is I just want to show you these odd connections within the actual Matrix film. So as we talked on Saturday night about these numbers that were generated by adding or multiplying 333 by 1111, getting 369963, adding that number to getting 369963, then adding 1111 to it, getting the new number, and then adding 369963 to every new number after that. So I demonstrated to you how the numbers were going up and down by the number 37, how that number seems to be prominent throughout this entire thing. So one of the interesting connections with the first Matrix film is the character of Neo was 37 years old. And he was born March 11. So we're kind of chasing that 11 number here. And of course, 37 reduces to 10 because 3 and 7 is 10. And then of course that reduces to 1, which fits into the whole thing of him being the 1. So that's just kind of an interesting connection there. And then it's interesting that on his passport, it should just happen to expire on September 11th, 2001. So that's odd to me, at least. And it's also interesting that on his passport, they say that he was born in 71, but he was actually, according to this document, which I have a much clearer version here, it says his date of birth was 11 March 1962. So kind of odd. Now, I just want to point out here that if you look at this, the date of the last amendment or addition was dated 22 of July, 1998. When you add all those numbers together, it totals 38, and 3 and 8 is 11. And you'll start to see how this is encoded throughout these movies like this. So starting with the most recent film, which have you seen the most recent film?
No, I have no interest in it, but so you could ruin it for me.
Okay. So towards the very beginning of the film, there's a character named Bugs, and she's being chased, and she leaps from one building to another, and she's kind of sliding down this sign. And it's interesting that the sign should happen to say, "For those who love to eat shit." And that stood out to me. I thought that was odd. Like, where in the world are you going to see a sign on a building that says something like that? I just thought it was such an odd statement. Now, and it's also interesting that "eat shit" should happen to be a separate color from the rest of the words. And this is what just hit me last night. "Eat shit" is an anagram for atheist.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then looking at the phrase, "for those who love to eat shit." So running this through the Gematria ciphers, the Jewish reduction is 11. Jewish ordinal is 11. And then just the regular Jewish cipher, the one that I typically use all the time, gives the value of 2585. And 25 plus 85 equals 110, or possibly an encoded 11. But looking at the number 2585, running it through Gematria, that, or these phrases that you see on the screen here, generate this number. So we have phrases such as "we warned you," "those that are dangerously brainwashed," "you are my end and you are my beginning." Now that one's very interesting to me because it ties back into the one for 1111, where it was the beginning is the end and the end is the beginning. And then we have "what is the energy source of a human being?" and "remove the veil from their eyes." So just looking at the number, if you should happen to take 2585 and add it to its mirror opposite, you get 8437. And 84 plus 37 is 121. This ties back in to how the numbers come up to 121, the numbers that I generated through using that process of multiplying 333 by 1111. And it also seems to point towards the number 12 being the 12th prime and 73 being the 21st prime. Something I want to point out is that 12 plus 21 equals 33, which is supposed to be the age of Jesus at the time of the crucifixion. This will also come up a little later as well. But also with this new number, 8437, if you take it and its mirror opposite and butt them up towards each other, you have 3773. Again, the 12th and 21st prime numbers showing. But this just so happens to be what in the Hebrew Bible, the phrase from Genesis 1, "in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth," gives you the value of 2701. And 2701 plus its mirror opposite is 3773. All right, so let's move forward. Also, if you take the numbers 8 plus 4 plus 3 plus 7, you get 22, which is also what you get when you add 1111 together. It's also a master number, just like 11, 22, 33, and so on. But in Gematria, 8437 gives us these very long phrases. The definition of sheep, I mean, this whole entire thing that you see written out here will give you the value of 8437. So we have the definition of sheeple, people that think the president is in charge, who can't see both parties are in bed with each other and herding us to the same satanic new world order. We also get activation codes received. Now this one's interesting. You'll notice that humanity is spelled with an E in it. responds as higher light enters the planet in fullness and in force. Flashpoints are noted and stabilization protocols are enabled. Clarity of mind and heart come. And then the third one, when young people begin to show symptoms of neurodevelopmental emotional problems, you can bet a round of vaccines preceded it. Again, there's an additional E. I thought this was a little interesting considering there was another sign in the film that had a burnt out E, which seems to suggest to remove these E's, but those E's had to be there in order to get this exact value of 8437. So moving on, there's another sign on top of one of the buildings in the film. And I think this is Spanish. I don't know. And I don't know how to pronounce it exactly, but it looks like Sabora Mirade. And it has the value of 353, which when totaled equals 11. And this phrase means taste of shit. Also, 353 in Gematria gives us God's a math code, the force of light, solar flare, Higgs boson, and darkened skies. Now, math or God's a math code, that seems to point towards this whole Gematria and this whole math, figuring this code out. The force of light, I don't know unless that's referencing that bright white light I saw. Who knows? We have solar flare. That could possibly have some sort of connection to the solstice solar eclipses, but it's a reflection back to the sun possibly. Higgs boson, that comes up because there's been references to the Hadron Collider through this Gematria and using these numbers. And then darkened skies. Well, when you have an eclipse, the skies are dark. So just kind of making connections here. And then this is just like a wider shot of the entire sign on the building, just proving that that's what it says. Then there's another scene from the movie. And when I start seeing numbers now, it's like they stick out and I can't help it. And I notice them straight away and I start doing the math, figuring out these numbers mean anything. Well, right on this building is the number 155, which again equals 11. And then on the police car is a number 42334. Now, someone on my YouTube channel asked me if I found any connections with that. And at first I didn't. But then the more I looked at this, I noticed that the 442 seems to be separated from the 334. So that kind of made me wonder, does that mean since it's removed to actually subtract the number? So I did, and we get the number 29 or 292, which possibly could be an encoded 1111 because 2 and 9 would be 11 and 9 and 2 would be 11. Also, when you take 29 plus 92, you're back to that number of 121. Then there's a scene where they're running out of a theater. And the movie that's being played is called Root of All Evil, starring Lito Rodriguez. This phrase, root of all evil, gives you the value of 1111. Now the question is, it's theater 1. So is this even more encoded that instead of 4 ones, it's 5 ones? And through Gematria, these 5 ones will give you this entire phrase of we are in an artificial matrix. We are slaves. We are being punished. We are being further tested and tried like silver 7 times in the fire. The few and refined shall rise. Now, this is kind of an Easter egg at the same time because this character, Lito Rodriguez, is fictional. He's a fictional character from Wachowski's TV series. I think it was a TV series that they did called Sense8. He's actually a character in that. So that's kind of an Easter egg. But just the fact that they would use root of all evil and that having the exact value of 1111, it stands out to me. Then there's another building, and the sign just says the blast. That's it. Nothing more. The blast. And it's on the building of 155. So
You sure that's not a 6?
yeah, it's a 5. It looks like a 6 right there, but it is a 5. I had to, in order
Oh, it
to
is a 5. Yeah.
Yeah,
I see how it's a 5 too.
Yeah. In order to get the picture, I had to use my phone because it wouldn't allow me to take a screenshot of it. It just came out black when I tried it. So it's a little blurry. So the blast through Gematria equals 326, which totals 11. But also 326 will give us the phrases of set me free, undeniable, deep thinker, the code decoder, earth hidden code, read the God code, I hate cops, which is interesting since this whole entire scene is full of police cars. And we get the term or the phrase finger slip, which is interesting. It stood out to me because it was a finger slip that caused me to go down that wrong path with the binary code. Because I fat fingered an 8 instead of or a 9 instead of an 8 or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the number was. So you can you can already see how somebody seems to be aware of this information. And to me, it doesn't seem like it's by accident. Now, this one, it doesn't really have anything. I just thought it was interesting. It's again, how they hide their information in films. And we see this all the time where they hide stuff in films. A lot of people don't even know that R2-D2 is in Close Encounters of the Third Kind because he's so well hidden. But I just thought it was interesting that the bottle of pills that Neo has taken in the film, the pharmacy is called Folly Bridge. And Folly Bridge House is where Alice in Wonderland was invented by Lewis Carroll. And the name of the pills, which I can't pronounce, ontolofloxacin, something along those lines, seems to be a branch off of the word ontology, which is a branch of philosophy that studies concepts such as existence, being, becoming, and reality. So I just thought that was kind of interesting that they would place that in there. Now, actually, just over the weekend, some guy reached out to me, sent me an email. I think his name is Peter, spelled Pieter, which nothing against his name, but when I first saw it, I thought it said pie eater. But I just copied something that he wrote because I want to keep his trust. I don't, want him to think that I'm kind of outing him or anything like that. And he hasn't given me permission to use his first and last name. But one of the things that he emailed me was he said, it must be said, Garrick, that whoever, or dare I say whatever, encrypted this information has done so by hybridizing different esoteric systems into an entirely new system that borrows from all of the above: gematria, astrology, numerology, etc. Therefore, with this new system in place, the rules for each individual system no longer apply, which allows the hybrid system to encrypt information at a deeper level. Not sure how you figured this all out on your own, other than something must be holding your hand and leading you down this path. Now, this guy claims that he is a crypt analyst. I think that's how you pronounce it, which is someone who breaks codes without having the key to do so. So I just thought it was interesting that he reached out and what he says here about that the rules for each individual system no longer apply.
Right.
So now let's jump over to how this seems to connect to 9/11. So first of all, let's just get the and I say the cheesy part of it out of the way.
One of the flights was Flight 11 too.
Yeah, the first flight. So the cheesy part that I was going to say is that the buildings themselves look like a giant 11 sticking up out of out of the ground. But let's just look at the numbers. So the date 9/11. I mean, it stands out.
Right.
9 plus 1 plus 1 is 11. There were 4 flights, or you could look at this as 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, which again would be 11/11. But September 11th is the 254th day of the year. And 2 plus 5 plus 4 equals 11. And there are 111 days remaining from September 11th to the end of the year. So if we look at this as there being 111 days remaining from September 11th, it makes me question again if this is pointing towards the 5 ones and back to that whole entire phrase of we are in an artificial matrix. So, the first flight was American Airlines Flight 11. There were 81 passengers, 9 flight attendants, and 2 pilots. So 81 plus 9 plus 2 equals 92, and 92 is 11. It struck the North Tower at 8:46. So 8 plus 4 plus 6 is 18. 1 and 8 becomes 9. And then 9 plus the 11 from the 81 passengers, the 9 flight attendants, and 2 pilots, we're back to the number 11. Also, if you just happen to take 8:46, the time, and add the number 11 to it, you get 857. Subtract 857 from 1111, you get 254, which points back to 9/11 being the 254th day of the year. And again, 2 plus 5 plus 4 is 11. The second flight, 17 minutes later at 9:03 a.m., the South Tower was hit. So we're going to take 9:03 plus 17, we get 9:20. Again, 9 plus 2 is 11. Also, if you take 17 minutes, so 1 plus 7 equals 8, and the time, so 9 plus 3, we get 12. 1 plus 2 equals 3, and that makes 8 and 3, 11. So again, we're back to 11/11. The South Tower was hit by United Airlines Flight 175. Both towers collapsed within an hour and 42 minutes, leading to the collapse of World Trade Center 7. So Flight 175 plus World Trade Center 7 equals 182, and 1 plus 8 plus 2 equals 11. Now, if we take 9:03, that was the time, plus 175, we get the number 1078. And this seems to be like a puzzle going backwards. Because if you take 1078, subtract it from 1111, you get the number 33, which is supposed to be the highest level of the Masonic order. This will come up here again shortly. Then looking at the third flight. The third flight was American Airlines Flight 77, crashed into the Pentagon at 9:37. So looking at those numbers, 7 plus 7 plus 9 plus 3 plus 7 equals 33. 33 connects flight 3 to flight 2 to complete the 1111. Because we add that 33 back to 1078, we're back to 1111. The fourth flight was United Airlines Flight 93. It crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania at 10:03. So taking the entire time, 10:03, plus the flight number 93, we get 1096. Add those up individually, we get 16. 1 and 6 equals, or 16, and then plus 1 plus 6 equals 7. And then 4, because it's the fourth flight, we're back to 11. Now, some interesting connections through Gematria. The phrase twin flame has the value of 1111. Now, these were twin buildings that went up in flames. 411. That phrase gives you the value of 1111. There were 4 flights on the 11th day. Triple given name. This spelled out gives you the value of 1111, which triple given name is World Trade Center. This phrase, Freemason number calculation, gives you the value of 1111. That's the tie-in. Warning lie also gives the value of 1111. Now, one of the things that I do in my spare time is I research reversed speech. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Called backmasking.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. Backmasking is intentional, but reverse speech is supposed to be our subconscious mind, literally speaking in reverse. Now, I studied George Bush's address to the nation right after 9/11. When you reverse the audio, the very first thing that he says is, "We have forewarning," which is interesting, which makes you think they knew of this ahead of time. Now, just very quickly, I typed in to Gematria these entire phrases, American Airlines Flight 11, just to see what values it would give. So here's all the values. Here's the total. When you take and reduce it down, you get the number 22, which reflects back to 11 plus 11. And of course, this is just math over here. But I think you'll find this part interesting. In your research, you talk about 2 twins. Can you tell me the names of the 2 twins?
Depends on where you look for it in the Bible. The twins represent Gemini, the
Right.
twins in
And their
astrology.
names?
Castor and Pollux Troy.
Yep. Okay. So the name Castor gives you the value of 324. 3 plus 2 plus 4 equals 9. Pollux gives you 650. 6 plus 5 is 11. You have 911. 2 twins, 2 twin buildings. Going forward, so bin Laden was killed on May 2nd, 2011. Add up all the numbers in the date, 5 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1, we get 11. One World Trade Center opened in the month of November, again, 11. And the phrase 11th month also has the value of 1111. Now, something interesting here, looking at the flight numbers, we had flight 11, 93, 175, and flight 77. 11, you typically do not reduce down. But 93, 9 and 3 becomes 12. 175, when you add that together, you get 13. And 77 becomes 14. It's following this pattern.
I remember being on AOL Instant Messenger when I was 17 years old, when 18 years old when this happened, and figuring that part out, the 11, 12, 13, 14.
Yeah. Well, you had such a connection, it seemed like, with that whole infinite waves of love that I showed you the other night.
Mm-hmm.
So notice how, and this makes me think of what that guy who emailed me when he said the rules don't apply. So typically you don't reduce 11 down any further than that. But in this case, I'm going to. So 11 would become 2, 12 would become 3, 13, 4, and 14, 5. Well, we're missing the 6 because that's what you need is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in order to produce that phrase.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't realize that there was a 5th flight, United Airlines Flight 23. Now, United Airlines Flight 23 was to fly from New York's JFK Airport bound for Los Angeles, and the plane had already pulled away from the gate and was taxiing down the runway when the airport was shut down and the crew was ordered to secure the cockpit. This was never mentioned in the 9/11 Commission report. Now, this is just my mind thinking, and it could be a stretch here. But since this flight never took off, we have to cancel it out. And when I think of canceling something, it's putting an X over it. So again, the way my mind works, is it telling me that to take 2 and 3 and multiply them together, you get 6. And that would complete 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And is it possible that those multiple infinite waves of love was what was sent out from the victims and from all the people watching this take place on their televisions? I don't know. All right. So that's the connections that I found to 9/11. Now, this other thing is, it's very interesting. I'm sure you've heard of the Rotos. I don't know if I'm pronouncing these words correctly or not.
Yeah, the Sator Square, yeah.
So because of that number, the 371074, let's go back up here. Just because of this and the way that the numbers worked, it led me towards finding out about this square. So again, just seeing what things do, I take this first word, put it through Gematria, it gives the value of 321. And then the second word, which they are unsure what this word actually means. They think it might be someone's name, but they're unsure. Gives the value of 196. Tenant gives 250. What looks like the word opera, but I'm sure it's pronounced differently. 196. And then the last word, 321. I reduced all of those down. You get 67776. I put them into a square like this. And I started looking at just the corner numbers. So 6 and 6 is 12. And in the middle, we have 21. Again, reflecting back to the number 37 being the 12th prime and 21 being the 73rd, or 73 being the 21st prime. Now this is, so remember we had 3773 that was generated from the Hebrew Bible. Is it any coincidence that when you take all of these sides, so this side would be 1221, this side would be 1221, there's 4 of them. So take 4, or take that, you get 4884. Is it a coincidence that if you just so happen to subtract 1111, you get 3773? Now, there's people that have translated this, and they seem to think that that this Arapo, or however you pronounce this, was a person's name. And that really all that this is telling you is that this person, Arapo, however you pronounce it, is planting or sowing his seeds and tending to his field. But I'm wondering if it's pointing to something actually different. Because the first word, Sator, however you pronounce it, means to sow, or it's the sower, it's the planter, the seeder, or according to Google Translate, it simply means the creator. And of course, this word's unknown, but then we have tenant, which means to hold, keep, comprehend, possess, master. And then rotos means wheel, to rotate, turn, put into motion. So is it the creation story that that's being described here, but not the creation story that we're used to hearing? Now, one of the other things with this square is you can rearrange all of the letters into this, which I don't speak Latin, so I'm not sure how to pronounce these exactly. But you can get, if it's pater, pater, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it means simply our Father. And it can come down and it goes across. You're left with an A and an O left over. Or actually, you're left with 2 A's and 2 O's left over. And A and O are the first and last letters in the Greek alphabet and mean alpha, the beginning, and omega, the end. Which again points back to the beginning is the end, and the end is the beginning. All right, and let's see.
We've got a couple minutes left. We're gonna have to do a part 3.
Actually, I'm actually right at, this is actually the last of what I was going to show you.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah, there was actually a little tiny, odd, interesting thing, which I just put your name into Gematria, which gave the value of 206. And 206 plus its mirror opposite gives you 808, which using Leet or the Leet language would give you Bob, which I thought was interesting. But also you get the omega, you get 444, which 3 times 4 would be 12, kind of pointing towards the zodiac. And then the simple Gematria 74 gives you the number 12 or 11. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. Not saying that means anything, but just wanted to kind of point that out. So in a nutshell, that's basically it. There's a lot of other tiny, tiny little connections that I don't want to bore you with. But I mean, that's it. Basically, everything that I've come up with so far and where this has led me seems to, and my take on it is it sort of seems to point towards this idea that, I don't know, that we live in a simulation, that our reality is not quite what we think it is, and that it seems to be pointing towards a possible reset about to take place.
Can you go back to that slide about the 5th plane?
The 5th plane, yes. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, and you can find all kinds of articles about it. You can find an article of a lady that was actually on the plane. She was part of the crew talking about this, and she's like,
wasn't Seth MacFarlane supposed to be on this one?
I know he was supposed to be on one of the flights, and this possibly could be the one that he was supposed to be on. Yeah, I've heard him mention that. I don't know, again, if it was this specific flight, but if this was the one that was grounded and never took off, that would make sense. It would be this one.
I think what you need to do is you need to either put this in a book or find a way to do what I did and wrap a fiction story around it.
Yeah. I thought about, I was actually going to start writing a book before I started doing the videos. But as you can see, there's so much, and all those tiny connections, you know, I don't know if I have the brain power to write it down, you know, and keep everyone entertained or not. But I mean, it's just, in my opinion, all of this is too coincidental to be a coincidence for these numbers to constantly keep coming up in this way. I mean, if it was once or twice, that'd be one thing.
Did you ever see Jim Carrey's movie, The Number 23?
I think so, but I don't think I actually, I think it was just playing like at somebody's house. So I never actually
You should rewatch it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll, and it also reminds me of the movie that The Knowing with Nicolas Cage. Did you ever see it?
I can't remember, probably.
Yeah, it's like his son is part of this class that opens up this vault from like 50 years ago, and his son gets this. Everyone else is getting all these pictures of what they think the future is going to be like, but his son ends up getting these sheets of paper that have nothing but these numbers on it. And his father's able to calculate that these numbers are pinpointing when these natural disasters are going to happen, how many people are going to die, the exact time and date of when it's going to happen. And then, at the very end, it leads to this huge solar flare that takes place and wipes out the entire planet. Not saying that that's what this is, pointing towards, but it just makes me think of that movie with all the numbers.
If you want to write something up real quick, like basically a pitch for what you're doing, I'll try and connect you with some of the podcasts that I've been on.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because
you have to like fine tune the pitch and really explain what you're doing. Just make it jump out. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'll try and get you. I think you're onto something. I don't know what it all points to. And usually I'm very uncomfortable with numerology and Gematria because to me, I think it's too interpretive.
Right.
But you have something here. I just don't know what it is.
That's exactly where I'm at. It's like, this has to mean something, but I don't know what it means. What's the end game? What is the point to all of this? And for all of this to unravel the way that it has, and I get it. I understand how, my seeing the number 333 and 1111. I get it. I understand how people can see that as sounding like horse shit, but that's exactly the way it happened, and take me out of the equation completely. It still doesn't stop all of these numbers doing exactly what they do. So my part in it, remove me, you're still left with all of this.
Right. Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing this with me.
Yeah. And I appreciate you taking the time to look at it. And I know it's overwhelming, and everyone.
Have you started my book series?
Oh yeah. I'm in the second book now. I'm about 70% through. And you mentioned the other night that there was a cliffhanger at the end. So I can't wait to get to that cliffhanger and find out what it is.
Yeah.
But I am thoroughly enjoying these books. I mean, it's like this, it feels like this adventure that I'm on, but it's, you have this whole entire, this cast of characters, and it's just, I don't know, it's so fast paced, and it just keeps me turning the page over and over again.
That's what I get a lot. I really appreciate it. So write something up and send it to me.
Okay. Yeah, definitely will. Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing this.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you taking the time, and like I said, I know it's a lot.
Let me know as you reach out to me, and let me know as you make progress on this, or if you find something out that's interesting.
Okay. Yeah, because the whole Castor and Pollux thing was just literally since we talked on Saturday that I just happened to put those in because I saw, twin flames, it just stuck out. And you talking about these twins, I just went on a hunch and was shocked to see that you can get 9/11 out of those two names.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I absolutely appreciate you taking the time to look at this.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care, Eric.
You too. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.